with Voices in Vaughn and IndieStories.com, and this segment is for the curator of the Marilyn Rose Center. And where is it located, Angie?
205 East Palmer, Indianapolis. So on the old South Side.
So just a few minutes south of downtown, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Right off Madison, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's like 100 block that's kind of south of downtown. How far down from downtown is it?
I mean, if you know where Lilly headquarters is at, it's literally just right down the road.
Right, just down the road from. All right, so we're going to show this on screen. We're also going to dive into your art and you doing classes, and also some in-studio footage that we took previous. But this event here, let's just talk about it. It's on May 11th. Tell me what's going to be going on.
Sure. So it is Wellness Through Art class. I am doing that with my friend and also fellow curator here at the Rose Center, Blue. We both work through. We use art as therapy, and we do it in different ways. He does alcohol inks on tiles. I tend to paint with acrylics. So he had been talking about doing a therapy class. I had internally been wanting to do an art therapy class, and brought it up to him about him and I maybe collaborating, and we experimented. He gave me some tiles of his. I played around with them, and we created this class. We had our first one last month. It went really well. We had people connecting and made some people cry in a good way, so it's always a good thing. Yeah.
So how many people were in the class? How many people came for the class for the first time?
It was a small one. We had 5 people, but it was a nice, small, intimate class. The picture there on the bottom left, that would be from that class.
All right, so we've got multiple classes here. Are these from different classes you've run?
Yeah, I've been teaching painting classes for almost 4 years now, just about 4 years. The top left there was one of the first ones I did like solo, not with a company or anything, at Schoolhouse 7 up in near Noblesville. And then the other one is a paint your pet class that I did for a company. They do team building exercises and stuff, and they invited me in to help them paint their pets, which is always a good time.
That's very cool. So let's talk a little bit about the Marilyn Rose Center. If you could, just kind of give a nice overview of what people would expect when they come there, and kind of the layout and how it's all set up.
Sure. So it's a big building. When you walk in, you're going to come through a hallway, and then you get 2 options to go left and right. We have 5 different gallery spaces that rotate out each month with different featured artists that aren't resident artists here. They're outside artists, local artists here in Indianapolis and surrounding areas. Each gallery space has its own unique vibe. We have Crossroads Gallery is the first little one that you come into, and then you go into Heathen's Hall, and then there's Babylon, and then when you come back this way, we have our big, really big gallery space called the Rose, and then when you keep on walking, you'll eventually enter into where my studio is at, which is the Garden, which kind of has its own immersive garden vibe going with it.
Okay, so we're going to look at some of the other situations you've had helping other artists. You've got the one there with the dark circle at the top. Who are those individuals, and what was that situation?
So that is from a live painting that I did. So live painting is where like there's music playing, like live music playing, and there's an artist that's there painting a picture while the music is being played. And so that's what that painting is from. I painted that over the course of maybe 2.5 hours or so, and then by the end of the night, that couple took it home with them.
I love was that a black lab with a crown on its head in the painting? Is that what she did?
That is. So that was another paint your pet. I partnered, and I have another event coming up with her. I partnered with I don't get the name wrong. Pretty sure it's called Serenity. But what her organization does is they find homes for older pets that are kind of hard to find adopted homes for. And so she did a fundraiser of a Paint Your Pet at Center Point Brewery downtown, and that's what that one's from.
All right, so here's some shots of outdoor fun. Painting looks like maybe you're on a golf course, or where are the different locations, and how do people get to go and paint the scenery outside with you?
Well, the golf course one, that was with the company I was working for, so that's not necessarily something I can do anymore, but it's just kind of a cool thing that I got to experience. I worked for Painting with a Twist for about 3 years, and part of their uh, getting people to know about, and book outings and stuff, she would sponsor a hole on a business golf tournament, and it was my job to paint the hole when we first got there, like the scenery and stuff. And then each golfer that came through got to put a brushstroke on a new canvas, and at the end of the day, we'd have a semi-similar painting from every single golfer that went through there, um, of the hole that we were at. And then the one there on the upper left, that was another live painting event that I did. Um, I'm also part of a group called IIEC, and Independent Indianapolis Entertainment. They have a lot of musicians on their token visual artists, and it's another one of those where there were, I think, 3 or 4 musicians playing throughout the night. It was Halloween spooky vibes, so I went, instead of my bold colors, I went all black and white. Did like at the very end, that would end up being a cemetery scene of this cemetery that's in my hometown, that's in the middle of the woods, and so made a whole creepy vibe with that. Same with the bottom right one there. That's another live painting event that I did with them. That was an all day music festival, so that was painted throughout the day. And that couple had just moved to Indy and were wanting local art for their wall, and they absolutely fell in love with it and they bought it. And then the bottom left one, that was a commission piece from a guy down in southern Indiana. I did a market there. He really liked my work. He's really into elks. So he asked me to do a 3-piece for a scene in my style and toss an elk in there. And so that's what I got.
All right, so we're going to cut now to your studio, but I'd like for you to describe what you love about art and what has inspired you to go down this path.
For sure. So my background's chemistry. I have no formal education or anything like that, or training when it comes to doing any kind of art stuff. There was a YouTube tutorial that came across my recommendations, and I was kind of going through some things at the time, and I needed to complete something. So I went to Michael's, got the paints that I needed, went along with the tutorial, and found out that A, I was pretty good at it, and B, it was very cathartic and helped to relax my mind and not be so overwhelmed with all the feelings that I was feeling. And that's really where it's continued since then. That's how the Wellness Through Art class has started. Blue learned his art style through having a class at the VA to help with his physical pain. I've created my art style with helping me with my emotional pain. So that's how we merged together to bring that into one class. And it's still, art is my therapy.
That's beautiful. All right, now we're going to a pink little spotted owl and a phenomenal, it reminds me of, is it Scream or no, what's the Starry Night? It kind of reminds me of Starry Night in a way, as far as the I don't know, the vortex going out into the sky, but what's the character beneath that spiraled moon?
First, I need to correct you. The watermelon, that's a cat. I did a series of food cats.
Sorry about that.
Water meowing.
Okay.
And then the blue one, I was set up at First Friday in Beech Grove, and instead of just sitting at a market and just like sitting there while people are walking past your art, it's kind of awkward for me personally. So I like to paint while I'm there, and that was one that I did on the first Friday night. The story behind that is more of a feeling that it's a lady feeling very bogged down and kind of trapped in the rocks beneath her and trying to reach up for the light.
And then the heart above that?
Yeah, that one was a cathartic piece too. uh, oof. Uh, it is a heart with 2 puppet strings on it. The title of it is "When Did My Heart Become a Joke?" I don't really want to dive in too much to that one, but it was a therapeutic outlet that needed to be done.
All right, so let's talk about the outdoors and setting up for art shows, and also that twisted, beautiful tree. Why don't you tell me the backstory on the tree first, and then where you usually go set up for different art shows?
For sure. That's my DNA tree. I actually painted that for a friend of mine who had helped me out through a lot of things, and that was a way to give back. It's kind of a as above, so below type vibe going on. So you got the roots going out and underneath the ground, and you got the tree coming out at the top with the light coming in and through the middle. A little symbolic thing. As far as markets go, that one there is here at the Rose last spring. I done markets, Beach Grove. I've done Fountain Square. I've done. Oh, like I said, I just did a couple. I've done one in down Southern Indiana. I did a festival thing. I've done a few others, but it's just, yeah, those were my main ones.
All right, something I thought was pretty neat in your studio. That's an actual 45 record, and I'm assuming you and the Panda Head as well. So let's address the record first, and then the Panda.
So the record, that was in response to one of the other curators here, Sam. He did a record vinyl show, and so I played with that and used resin in a way that I'd never used before. So it's kind of hard to tell with that photo, but there's layers of resin. So I would painted the background, then did a layer of resin, and then painted the next part of it, and then did a layer of resin, and then painted the next part and did a layer of resin. And so it really creates a nice 3D effect when you look at it. Like the mountains are really far in the back, whereas the stones with the fire in between the pillars is much closer to you. The other photo, it's a raccoon head of a panda. And that was just a fun photo I thought I'd toss in with the ones I sent you, because my kid took that. She thought it would be funny for me to put my raccoon head on while I was painting. I actually wasn't really painting with the raccoon head. It was just a fun home moment of creating.
All right, so I'm going to cut that part out. Sorry about that. Here we go. On to the next one. All right, so this next shot here, I love the tree floating in general, and I'm not going to get any more deeper into it. Why don't you describe what was the inspiration behind that?
Sure. It's kind of funny. I ended up doing 3 different ones of the floaty tree, and the reason that it came about was I had a friend there's a group of us girls from college. I would go do girls weekend, and she at the time was needing an artist to create 5 pieces, all cohesive under the same theme of elevation. It ended up following through, but it still happened for the exact reason that was supposed to happen. The purple one is my logo. That's on everything. So when the theme was elevation, that is the image that came to my mind. And
what is that image? Like, what is that logo? What's the structure of it representing?
so it's the big, beautiful tree that's still connected to its roots and still is pulling part of the ground in which she grew from with her as she rises above things.
Beautiful. All right, so the one in purple with looks like the moon dot on the side of it. How would you describe that, and what was the inspiration?
I love your interpretations. So that one's called Something's Missing. It was another one of most of my therapeutic things. It's supposed to be like a face, but parts of it are missing because she's not completely whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and obviously it's the Marilyn Rose Center, and one of the questions I asked you before we started this was, did you actually do the logo? Because it looks very, very, very similar. Where did you do the rose, and was that acrylic, or what did you use?
I did the rose before the Marilyn Rose Center was a thing. Um, it's a mixed medium, so the background is kind of hard to see with the photo that small, but the background of it was uh, I took I still had a journal from my college years that had a lot of raw emotion in it, and so I took parts of that out and cut it and pasted it onto the canvas, and then I had some liquid acrylic spray that I picked up on sale one time. I never really done anything with, so I used some of that and did some drippy stuff in the back, and then I painted the rose on top with acrylic. So it's it's bringing out a version of me that needed to bring brought out in the scene, and making something beautiful out of it.
All right, so what's the one that looks like there's a hole in a hedge and with a tree coming through the window? Is that the wrong interpretation, or what do you think?
Are you talking about the street sign?
No, the vertical one,
Oh,
one.
that's my skate deck.
Oh, that's a skate. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. You've got that up in your studio, correct?
I do.
Is that the only skateboard deck you've painted?
It is, and it's same thing. Sam had a skate deck show, and so I painted a skate deck.
How did you have to treat the board before you painted it, and what'd you use?
I put a layer of gesso on it first, which gesso is just this white chalky stuff that any canvas is primed with gesso that you buy in the store. It just helps the paint to bind. It gives a little bit of grit and allows the paint to bind to the surface that you place it on. So I gessoed it, and then I did the painting, and then I did a coat of. That was my first time ever doing a coat of resin. That was an experimental experience. With my background as chemistry, I should have known a little bit better than what I did. I had to redo it a couple different times because you have to get the temperature right and all that kind of jazz in order for it to set solid. But I learned a lot with that deck.
Okay, then now about the sign at the top. I'm not sure if he's an M&M or what he is, but who's the character and what's the sign?
I have no idea what that character is. That was a covering up of something I was trying to do underneath it, and he got put there instead. The sign we hosted. Oh man, I wasn't prepared for that. I don't remember what it was called, but we hosted a big we had a booth at a car show back last month in March, and we had a bunch of decommissioned state signs, and I was real loose with that. Didn't want to spend a whole lot of time, so I just took paint that we already had back in the cage, plus some spray paint that I already had here, and just whatever came out. We have because of this being an American Tent Company, there's some random things that are left over from that, and downstairs there was a metal sign that had America from American Tent on there, so there's America up there, and then it had Indianapolis, so I spray painted Indianapolis on there. I called it, I think I called it something like riding the highways of America, something like that. But it was just a fun painting on state property, not the first time.
Nice. All right, so let's get back to the center. So when is the center open? And if people want to come, what are the major activities or things you guys have coming up?
So the center for the summertime, we have summertime hours and wintertime hours. We are obviously opening up for our summertime hours now. We are open Tuesday through Saturday. As far as events go,
I know what hours. What are the hours?
He's gonna ask me that, and I don't want to mess it up, so I didn't say it.
Yeah. What's a guess? Rough guess.
I'm pretty sure it's 2 to 10.
Okay.
I could be a little bit off on that as far as the early time, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 to 10.
Okay, thanks.
Check the Google to make sure. As far as events go, we have First Friday, obviously every month, but then we also have a lot of concerts coming up this summer. We have a 420 Fest happening this weekend. Also, this Friday we have a poets gathering where they're going to get together and do poetry and stuff. We have, like I said, we have a lot of concerts coming up for the summertime. It's ever changing. It's never just the same stuff. It's always something different.
Okay. All right. Well, Angie, I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody has some time to go to the Marilyn Rose Center for all the events. I was there, and it's just it's a 55,000 square foot complex. It's huge.
Yeah.
You think you're done with one side, and then it's 3 times bigger on the other side.
Yeah.
So, and John, his family had what was it, the American Tent Company that was there for decades before that. And I guess it got flipped over to basically an art institutional complex in 2021, somewhere in there.
22, I believe. Yeah.
22. Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for your time and sharing your artist story. And just stay on the line. And I'm going to close this one out.
All right. Sounds good.